Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to June Town Hall. So David is traveling today, but Jill and I will be facilitating. We have a great discussion that'll be led by the Northridge group today, and it is centered on mastering customer connections. And I did have a peek at the slides, and it is a very interesting discussion, and I'm very excited. So just to jump right in, I'm going to hand things off to Vicky. And Vicky, if you could just tell us about yourself and a little bit about the Northridge group, and then take it away.
Certainly. Well, thank you, Maggie and David and Jillian for asking me to speak today. It's actually a topic that I'm extremely passionate about, and even better, one that in working with our clients, we've had some proven results that we're going to share a little bit with you today. But just a little bit about my background. I've been in the contact center industry for a little over 25 years now, in many different verticals, from logistics to retail, banking, and healthcare. And lots of experience in operations, workforce management, you kind of name it. So, and then I've been lucky enough to have the experience for the last 5.5 years to be working with the Northridge group and supporting many different clients and customers, specifically through the customer experience journey. I specifically focus, I'm the Director of Contact Center and Customer Experience Operations for Northridge, and I'm really looking forward to having some good open discussion around behavior-based coaching and how that impacts customer experience with you all today. All right, so just a little bit about Northridge themselves as we move forward. Like me, Northridge has been in the contact center business for approximately 25 years as well, and really all things contact center. Northridge specifically is an award-winning woman-owned boutique consulting firm that really focuses on helping our clients find solutions wherever they may need that additional push. We serve Fortune 1000 organizations, and as you can see, in just about every vertical, everything from government to transportation, retail, energy, you name it. So we've got a really unique way that we embed ourselves with our clients to support them through their long-term, short-term, whatever those needs may be. So what do we do, right? Certainly my focus is all things contact center, and that's around operational optimization, workforce planning, and forecasting, technology, quality programs, training to journey mapping, and all of that circling back, of course, to the impact on customer experience. We've got our process optimization and transformation organization, where we look at things from process redesign, cost transformation, revenue, all of that. We also specialize in training and performance management, which obviously plays a role into these other things, but my great experience with that certainly is around contact center, and that's, that focusing on how do we get new hires up to speed more quickly? Are they fully optimizing their knowledge management, continuous learning, and are they focused on the right scorecard metrics? And a lot of what we'll be talking about today is truly coaching effectiveness. And then technology and digital transformation, right? That's tech assessments, requirements and definitions, RFP development, sourcing, and cloud solutions as well. So we've got a great team with extreme breadth and depth in all of these categories. So that's who we are and how we've been connected with CCNG. And as I said, why we were certainly pleased to be asked to come in and talk to the group today. So today's topic specifically is on behavior-based training and coaching. I'm sure all of you kind of have an understanding of what that is, what that means in your organization, but we're really talking about how we're kind of optimizing that with our clients and taking all those metrics. I'm a big sports fan. And I think the only thing that has as much stats as baseball and basketball, even football, is contact centers, right? There's data, all of this quantitative data that comes in from everywhere. And really what we're talking about here is how you take that information, use it as your roadmap, your leading indicators, but then how you move that into more of the behavior-based training and moving away from here's your stats, here's your rank, now go get better, right? That tends to be somewhat of the standard. Be more efficient, be faster, right? Well, if I knew how to be faster, I probably already would, but really how to break that down and coach to those behaviors. And again, shifting away from the metric only coaching, but adding behaviors. And so that those contact leaders and coaches can identify those specific skills, attitude, approach, technique that is really going to contribute to that customer interaction. Thoughts from anyone out there on how you may or want to kind of bring this focus forward in your organization?
This is Candy with the Texas Workforce Commission. And
Hi,
I was just gonna say that your comment is spot on. We have a program for our evaluations that is only behavior-based. And when we communicate with our staff regarding areas of improvement, we don't talk about stats like average handle time, but we do communicate behaviors. And one of the behaviors that we do discuss is call efficiency, and specifically what those items are, other behaviors that causes a call not to be efficient. So I'm just mirroring your comments as yes, that is absolutely what we do here in our own organization.
Hi, I'm Daniel Roth with Dispatch Health, and we run a large call center, including BPO, as part of our strategy. And we found that behavior-based is also the most effective. Similar to you, there's tons of metrics, and most of them do not directly relate to the agent themselves, right? A lot of them are metrics for the business, and the agent might not be able to relate to them. So we find talking about behavior, and we've actually brought speech analytics in as a tool to help with specific verbiage and phraseology to be able to use to drive behavioral improvements based on best practices. Found that very successful. And one of the questions I have as you talk through this is around gaining deeper engagement from business process outsourcing when using one, and any hiring tips as well for people that really embrace behavioral change, because it could be more of an ego hit for someone when you're talking about their behavior. It's direct.
Certainly understanding the behaviors and the behaviors that are important to your customer experience. It's critical in understanding what those are and making that a part of the recruiting and hiring process, right? So for you in healthcare, right, certainly empathy and compassion are things and behaviors that are critical to this work, right? It's not what's my balance or where is my package. This is really about the care of ourselves and those people that we care for. So understanding and being able to identify what those core behaviors are is very, very important in the recruiting process. Certainly, those things can be taught and coached to, but if you have that firm understanding and making that a part of your selection process, it will ultimately always make you more successful. Did I address your full question?
Yeah. On the hiring front, yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And some of that we do, some of it we could do much better. And I think about it from the quality standpoint and the rubric for quality and how to bring that into the hiring process in a natural way for the interviewer.
Absolutely. And I think throughout the training and the new hire process, right, it's also important to have folks understand that balanced scorecard, right? We want you to be efficient, but we also want you to be helpful and complete.
Right.
Right. And that's the big thing. Oftentimes, even with some of our clients, especially those that are a little lower on the maturity scale for contact centers, it's always about let's be fast, let's be quick. But the thing that we've got to remember, if it takes 2 5-minute calls to resolve the issue versus 1 6-minute call, anybody can do that math and understand that the experience, not only for the customer, which is certainly paramount, but also allowing the folks the ability to take the ownership to help and see that through resolution is a big piece that is certainly very important in the employee engagement.
Yeah.
And so it's a win-win all the way around. So the question is, what is the greatest impact you have currently on your contact center attrition? Okay, so engagement and culture. I'm very pleasantly surprised to see that that is the winner, I guess, in terms of this poll, because that's certainly been my experience. And as we'll talk through this and actually sharing some white paper information and some client results, what we see is that when you move to this behavior-based coaching and you make it part of the forefront and a consistent part of the culture, right? That people know what and when to expect coaching and at what cadence, that you definitely see a huge lift in the engagement and the culture. I did see there was 7% that had the on-premise, and I'm curious if anyone kind of wants to speak to how they're kind of handling that in their organization.
Hey, this is Tony. I'll jump in. I did that, or I was one of them. Our challenge with on-premise is it's a corporate mandate to be on site, and it was hard coming back from COVID when we were for 2.5, almost 3 years on 100% off-site. So we're just having a hard time with agents coming back when they feel they're more productive when they're at home, even though our research shows that's not necessarily the case due to technology and usually internet connections at a home compared to the office. But our organization is not a single location. There are a variety of different centers within our organization that have different rules. So they see that as well. So why does this other department get to be remote when we don't? So that's the biggest challenge that we have. And we do offer partial work from home if they meet certain accelerated KPIs. But that is not an incentive enough, apparently.
Okay, that's interesting. We have seen actually helped Contact Center Magazine or Pipeline Magazine with an article based on this, and certainly found that offering that perk based on performance was something that they really saw some real improvements in productivity, efficiency, sick time, all of those things when it was offered up, even when a certain requirement had to be met. So that was interesting. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that, Tony.
I'm going to put us on to the next slide.
Okay. All right. So let's just talk a little bit about specifically a healthcare client that we've been working with for the last year. and certainly protecting their identity, but wanting to give you enough information so that we can size out some of the benefits that we are specifically seeing from them. So this particular client is a very large customer-owned health insurance operating in multiple plans in multiple states. Over 18 million members, and they employ more than 2,600 people across 60 different offices, as we said, in multiple states. They offer basically every kind of healthcare plan you can offer. They offer those and certainly tend to support them kind of in siloed might be a little bit strong, but in those verticals as well. The client was looking to update their performance management and coaching program to be best in class. They had already started some things, but really asked NRG to come in and support the review and the refinement and the deployment of coaching and member experience initiatives across multiple lines of business. So we started with their big group within certain waves, completed quite a bit of workshops and training in order to support this. And ultimately, their goal was to improve their customer satisfaction and overall experience. They wanted to increase that first call resolution, leading to that to cost savings. And they were really, really focused on improving the employee experience right along with the customer retention. And it kind of goes back to the second oldest rule in customer experience, right? You take care of your people and your people will take care of your customers. That is certainly something that they were interested in. We partnered with them to complete the initial ROI around what we felt they would reap in terms of reward for this program. And what you'll see is as we go through this later, we're certainly demonstrating positive value and at least attaining that ROI, and in some cases exceeding our expectations for the work that we did with them as well. One of the things that I would just share with this as well, like most contact centers, their transition from frontline to coach is one when you're good at providing good customer service or you're a good call agent, right? That next step almost always is into a supervisory role. And there were things and training that were given to them around HR and when to do reviews and to do all of those things, but they didn't really have a good, solid program that took someone from a doer to a coach. And so that was part of the workshop and implementation that we did for them as well, is here's how you do, but here's how you transition to coach and specifically coach to behaviors. So as I said, even before we engaged this client specifically in this area of coaching and transformation, they had already run a very small internal pilot. And they saw great success from that pilot, right? Which was, again, focusing on behavior-based coaching. How do you provide feedback? How do you track success? How do you leverage metrics and then pull those forward? But even in their small pilot, right, they saw an average increase in PCS NPS score of 4.5%. They saw a 6% increase in data-driven FCR, so first call resolution. They saw a 40.5 average reduction in after call work. That was huge for them, right? Because it's not only about providing good service, but being available for when those customers need you as well. And then a 10.5% reduction in AHT. So they saw the success, they saw the potential, but then they said, okay, how do we integrate this? How do we do this in a bigger way? And that's when they came to NRG for the partnership. And we worked with them to enhance the program and some of the keys in terms of doing that are time, tools, and skills, right? And so what that means is you've got to give your coaches the availability to coach their folks, right? If you have coaches, supervisors, whatever they're called in your organization, and they're always pulled away into meetings and projects and RFP work, whatever that may be, right? You're pulling them away from what's essential in terms of the time that they should be coaching. And what we know is that really to have that effectiveness in your organization, they really should be focused on coaching a minimum of 60% of the time, right? We help them focus on the tools to have one place that they go to where the metrics are clearly outlined and anyone looking at it can quickly decipher, okay, where does this person need to focus based on those metrics? And then taking those metrics and translating them to the skills in terms of being able to look at the metrics, then understand what we call root cause to determine what is the behavior that needs to be coached to in order to drive effective improvement. So that was kind of those key areas. But what else did we do? We held workshops for those contact center leaders and coaches. And I'm very passionate about calling those workshops because they were interactive. We did role play. We asked people, what would you do? Have you been faced with this situation? And how did you do that, right? And made it very interactive. It wasn't just a CBT, here's what you look at, here's what these metrics are, but really interactive. We took it the next step further and we added what we called practical. This is healthcare, so we know practical is a term and a practice that is very good for them, where we said, here's a scenario. Let's write out a coaching plan, right? What kind of open-ended questions would you ask? How would you approach this? What is the tenor and the tone that needs to take place in this coaching conversation based on the results and the behaviors that we have to coach to? And then the last piece of this, and kind of what I like to call the secret sauce of how we apply this program, is we do mentoring. It's not, you don't go to a workshop and then we say, go and do it, right? There is the opportunity over a length of time that you work with a mentor who says, all right, and Jillian, I'll use you as an example. Jillian, you have adopted these skills. You're doing really well here. However, here in time management, let me help you get there, right? Here are some tools that you can implement versus, all right, you had training, now you should be an expert, but really that support. And what we found is that truly does drive an accountability factor. It drives confidence in terms of those leaders and coaches, and it allows us to ensure the leaders are walking the talk. I was headed down the right path, but because oftentimes companies will try to implement these things, and it'll be as we call it, the flavor of the month, or this is what's happening. But by having those checkpoints and continuing to follow up, it really does become more embedded in the culture, and people understand, wait a second, I'm going to be held accountable, so I better hold my people accountable so that we can achieve these results together. Any of you have successful mentoring programs for new leaders in your organization that you're leveraging today?
Hey, Vicki, I was going to ask about the original approach to this. Are the agents themselves hearing themselves, or are you doing it kind of as listening to other people, or how's that work? To like evaluate their own performance, so to speak?
Yes, that is a critical part of this. Call listening is an integral part in deciphering metrics down to behaviors, right? The metrics can direct you to say, hey, these are probably a grouping of calls I need to go listen to as a coach leader. But then taking it that next step further and saying, let's listen to these calls together. Additionally, one of the real key things that we found in this organization is also too giving those frontline folks the opportunity when they're being coached to something. Part of the practice is, hey, when you think you've done this really well, mark that call and send it to me.
Yeah.
Let's listen to it together. And what it does is it actually kind of promotes saying, oh, I really want to pull this behavior forward so I can send examples of when I am doing it right. And so thank you for that question, Adam, but call listening is a critical component in the success of this program for sure, and changing that culture. Up to our next polling question. And this is, do you feel your organization has a best-in-class training and coaching program? All right, so 18% say yes, we think we're there. 43%, the biggest chunk that's kind of tied there, say no. And sometimes that's by virtue of saying, okay, we need to do what we need to do to get by. But 39% of the respondents said we're getting there, which means you're looking to focus on how to bring that forward. So that I think that's excellent. Interesting, and probably if I had to guess before this where I would have thought we would have fallen out. Anybody surprised by those results?
No, not surprised.
Yeah, kind of where we think it is. And I think too, what we see and what I've seen over my career is that there's oftentimes this push, okay, let's go and focus on the coaching and focus on the training. And oftentimes, because we don't have the ROI or the data to support it, it can often be pushed to a back burner. And so, that's part of the discussion today, is making sure that you understand your ROI and what can be gained from doing this, so that your leaders and executives understand why we need to keep this in the forefront. To be best in class for training and coaching means you are absolutely that much closer to a best in class customer experience. All right, so I will admit to you, this is pretty much stolen directly from the client level executive update that we were able to provide to them. And this is a really good news story. In all of the areas of ROI, we met what we said we were going to do or exceeded it. So we're obviously, as I said before, certainly very proud when we're asked to come and talk about this experience. But in 2023 thus far, customer service is 370 FTE better than planned, right? And so that comes in a couple of ways. One, they're not having the attrition, but also seeing the increase in overall efficiency, whether that be right through first call resolution or complete resolution in terms of all of that. So in our last meeting with them, they shared that they're taking approximately 900 new hires have been removed from their hiring plan based on these improvements in both attrition and efficiency. They've seen a really great change in the overall culture and commitment to coaching. And what that means is making sure that their supervisors know and the coaches know, right? This is mandatory. It's not when I get to it, but it really has to be part of your organization and how you move forward. What we saw when we rolled it out with the first group, we kind of had an evaluation, right? We talked about this mentor process. We had an evaluation of how leaders were adopting to the program. And in the first wave, we had a small amount of folks that were low adopters that were having a hard time getting on board. But really, once they were able to run through that first wave, see the impact to both the employees and the customer experience, when we rolled out our second wave, we had no low adopters. These folks were like chomping at the bit saying, I want this training. I want to understand how to bring this forward with my team because I want to see the results that my peers were seeing who went through that first wave. So that's been really great. Also too, In that first wave, we talked about that mentorship and meeting with them every 2 weeks. We had about a 20% cancellation rate on those mentor sessions. It's below 5% in wave 2. And so again, once you can prove those results, once people know, okay, wait a second, I'm going to get the help to get through this, they were really engaged and wanting to be a part of that program. The program and the results of the program are now incorporated into their yearly goals. So how frequently are you coaching? What is your compliance with that? And even some level of quality audit on the completeness of the coaching forms. And they did see a dramatic increase, which would talk to the attrition in the employee satisfaction scores. A couple of things that we pulled out, but from supervisors who had gone through the program, they were talking, my team loves this. Specifically, they like being part of collaborating and creating that plan, right? Because in those best cases, and when you're doing best in class coaching, the person being coached has some say in that plan as well. And then we had a senior manager who commented, this is a significant change in our culture, but it immediately resonated with me, as I've known for years that the person asking the best questions will get the best results. And so it's really teaching them, it's almost a counseling session on creating those coaching plans. But the results that they've seen in really less than a year of implementation for this group are almost a 10% average increase in the NPS MES score, almost 6% in the PCS score, 26% average reduction in hold time. This is huge for them, right? Having people have the confidence to deliver the answers, not feeling the need to reach out to other resources, knowing how to find the answers, and thus getting that reduction in hold time, which everyone knows has a tremendous impact on customer satisfaction. And then a 9% average increase in adherence. And I think most of you probably have that, but that means people being where they're supposed to be when they're scheduled to be there, right? If you can imagine, right? A great portion of this is the actual customer experience that is provided, but a key to that customer experience is being there when I, as a customer, need you to be there. So some really good, strong results that we saw there. Some other key stats, you know, by the number, had more than 240 customer service leaders trained and going through this program. And just so you know, this is not just supervisor on frontline coaching, but all of these senior leaders are creating these coaching plans for their supervisors and managers as well. 1,100 plus hours of leadership training, 1,700 frontline advocates trained in what to expect and what it means to be coachable, right? We take it from both sides of that because having people understand being coachable and being accepting of the coaching information is critical in this as well. And then over 550 hours of mentorship completed in support of the program as well. So it's a real happy slide for me, one that I'm really proud of. And we've got a great team of people that are working on this. But when you can help your clients really see these results, it provides a level of job satisfaction for us as well. Yes, Molly.
Hi everyone. Sorry, I'm Molly Clark. I'm with the Northridge group. I'm Senior Director. I worked really closely with Vicki on this program. I run our training capability area, which all things performance excellence kind of fits under that training umbrella. I'm a minute or two late because I've been back to back today, and Vicki, you've been doing a phenomenal job, so I didn't want to jump in. But I will say this program, what was great is that they had made the commitment to coaching up front. So they had run a pilot and said, hey, we want to integrate coaching into our business. And then with Northridge Group, we were able to come in and kind of elevate that coaching program. And I think for me, when I look at the results and the impact, the cultural change piece of it is the one that always sticks out to me, because change is hard. It is not easy to change behaviors. It is not easy to change culture. I think culture came up as the #1 reason for attrition in the poll, right? It is so important, but it is so difficult to change. So with a program like this, you have to be consistent and making sure that everybody sees the benefit. And that was constantly reiterated, is that if you invest the time into this program, you will see those benefits. And the other piece is there was a really strong push to make sure that everyone receiving the coaching understood that this was an investment in them. I think a lot of times what happens, and I'd love to hear folks' thoughts on this, but within call center environments, a lot of times the supervisors, things are pushed to the supervisors. They end up wearing far too many hats, and then things get pushed down to the agents, and they have so many things that they have to do. And coaching becomes just another thing they have to do. And what we were really focused on doing with this program is trying to flip that around to say, this is an investment in you. This is the time that we're dedicating to develop your skills, to help you build transferable skills that would eventually help you with that career pathing, which I think was like the third thing that came up in the poll when it came to attrition. So where do you want to go in your career, starting with the skills that we develop here? So for that perspective, for the frontline folks, understanding that this isn't just something you have to do, this is something you get to do. You get to spend time developing your skills. You get to spend time getting better in your role. You get to spend some time learning a little bit more about your job and how to be better in this position. I think that really went a long way with both the folks doing the coaching as well as the folks receiving the coaching.
And I will add to that, that even as we're moving along, and certainly within some of the other organizations we've done this, a big part of the cultural change and the shift is that you see people looking forward to coaching, right? Looking forward to coaching, actually looking forward to having their calls listened to. So much so that they're like, okay, I got this call yesterday right after lunch, and I'm just not comfortable in this situation. Will you listen to this call with me so we can figure out what I can do to avoid these situations going forward? You know, and that people are really looking forward to it. It's not, oh gosh, what did I do? But it's, I love the way you said it, Molly. It's, I get to do this. I get to have this time to make myself better.
And I guess kind of opening it up to the group, do you all have perspectives or firsthand experience with that, of either a coaching culture that is right now feels like something you have to do, or one where you really feel like your business is at a place where they get to have coaching?
This is Daniel again with Dispatch Health. One of the things that I've seen and we've worked on as a team, and we're still a work in progress, is having an individual on a team, and an individual, I mean a leader to the frontline agent, comfortable with not always being in the green. Because there's a natural tendency, the way that historically I have 25 plus years in the industry, and is if you're not in the green, you're underperforming, and you're either on your way up or out, right? Like, people innately know that. And one of the things culturally we've been working on internally is this concept of leveling up and stretch goals, which everyone's familiar with. And the idea is, if you're not in the green, if you're in the green all the time, that's actually a bad thing. That means we're not stretching you enough. Like, there's more opportunity. So we actually want them to go through a life cycle of being in the green, going to red because we've stepped up the goal, yellow, and then green. So I think this idea of getting people comfortable being outside the green, and that's not necessarily means that you're failing. It means that there's an opportunity for your development, which is what you're sharing. Have created some breakthroughs and conversations within the team, within our team.
How was that initially when you introduced that concept? Like, how long did it take for folks to get comfortable? And are they comfortable? Do you feel like folks are fully comfortable with it?
So yes, because a year and a half ago, so yes, time frame, we started a process of resetting our goals. We did it, you know, with data analytics. We shared how we got to these goals so they understood why it happens. We talk about it monthly in town halls. So, and then we started creating step goals, small achievable step goals. So instead of creating this aspirational goal at an agent level or even a supervisor level, we have that as a business, but we don't need to bring that to that level. We set step goals that are achievable and we explain how we're going to get there. And then once we get close to it or they achieve it, then we start setting the next goal, right? And that automatically puts everyone back in the red. So we're in this together is the communication. And we're here to help. The other thing I found very helpful is giving concrete tools. I shared about speech analytics earlier. Very specific phrase, you know, to increase conversion. Here's what the top of the people say, the top performers. Here's what you're saying in your call. Here's the difference. Give this a try for a day, a week, and let's check in.
So you all should see that in the question here is what's the greatest barrier or challenge to improving your contact center coaching and training program?
So pretty spread out results here. Executive buy-in, budget, right? Technology and systems tied right up there, and difficulty in finding the right solution. I think all, you know, pretty applicable in terms of that. For anyone who selected budget, can we talk a little bit about that? Is it around creating the ROI, or is it truly just contact center being looked at as a cost center versus revenue opportunity? Okay.
This is Kevin Viskowski.
Oh, thanks, Kevin.
Sure. I'm with Certainly CX. So we're actually a boutique BPO, and we include training and coaching in our core prices, but still typically get questions and pushback on the value of it. And then when I've been on the other side of that equation in an internal organization, trying to carve out budget for training and or coaching, I think the issue that typically comes in is the tail. You know, how long are we going to have to put this cost into the program before we start seeing results? And then clearly just like any ROI, clearly tying the results that you achieve to those actions versus something else in the environment, and really having a clean test environment is the difficulty that I've run into multiple times. And just, yeah.
I was just going to ask, and anecdotally, because certainly from the boutique and the BPO standpoint, I'm certain that you have certain clients that invest more than others. Do you think that there's a direct correlation there, either in terms of their sales or driving loyalty?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think it to me, you know, when going back to I think it was maybe your first pop-up where culture came out number one, to me, yes, it's culture, but I think in my experience, the number one driver of culture is coaching and training. Because ultimately and again, this is my experience, when the agents I've talked to, when they've left, when it's like they've made that decision to leave, it's 9 out of 10 times it's because they didn't feel like they had a connection to their leader, to leaders, or to the organization. And I think coaching and training is the number one driver of building that relationship and that connection. So I think the organizations that invest in it, they see that return because we're not having to continuously train new agents, bring new agents on. And we focus on most of the time it's smaller teams. So teams of 25 and less agents. So if one person leaves, it's a massive hole in the system. And then there's an onboarding time there to bring them on. So we're really looking at making sure, we're doing our very best and to build that relationship. And it's largely, especially in a hybrid, we're a hybrid, completely hybrid now, have been since 2020. And coaching is so key to making sure that we have strong relationships with our agents and they have strong relationships with the clients. And there's a definite ROI on that, because if for no other reason, and this is where I have been able to make that budget argument, is look at how much we have to spend to fill that hole that's created when someone leaves. Because a lot of times our contracts will have overtime at the agent level built in. So no one wants to pay that overtime cost, right? Well, how do we avoid it? Well, we don't create a hole in the first place that we haven't planned for. So it's interesting, but yeah, the short answer to your question is definitely differences among clients, and those that are, I think, thinking more about their longer term future, at least more than a year out, are very much in the agree to, let's make the investment. Let's make the investment in this team. Let's talk about the quality program. Let's talk about the coaching program, the training program. But those that are not so sure about their future tend to not want to make that investment. And then of course it kind of defines that future too, right? So it's interesting.
Okay, good. Thank you, Kevin. Very insightful. I just know from where you sit, you probably get a very different vantage point than those of us that are one place in-house. So thank you. Just real quickly here, some information on kind of the process for the performance excellence and just a high level approach, right? It is a dedicated training program focused on effective coaching. Agent development around the business income outcomes, and certainly looking to, at the end of the day, improve that customer experience. And it's about defining immediate action plans, making sure the right metrics, right? You have the right things in place that you're measuring, and that that you're moving forward and able to achieve those desired results. And so our approach is around developing a customized training and development program. And it's obviously focused around that client and what they're doing. Are they sales? Are they healthcare? Are they financial, right? What is it that they're looking to achieve? Making sure that they have identified the appropriate performance metrics. Are they measuring the right things? I could tell you some stories about some folks pretty new on that maturity scale, with their key performance metrics were how much overtime do your agents give you, and how many calls do they take in a day. And I think all of you probably cringe a little bit, knowing that if you're measuring the wrong things, you're going to drive the wrong behaviors for sure. And then the program is really designed to drive rapid results through effective and immediate coaching, and making sure you're targeting the right process improvements. And then what is the output that we've seen? And this is consistent with each time we've rolled that out, but successful execution of the training program, focusing on targeting the skills, the processes, and performance management techniques, implementing a train the trainer, right? So how do you keep this going? Because you don't just go in and do this once and then it's there in the culture. You have to figure out how you're going to implement that in your new hire training, and how to make sure you can continue to grow and customize the program as you go forward. Making sure that the managers and staff can demonstrate that deeper understanding of the key performance indicators and improvements on those targeted KPIs as well. And then one of the great things is a custom certification program, right? To support continuous training and improvement. Are you going to have internal mentors, people that can now go and teach this and support folks as they're they're going through this process. And then
Can
ultimately,
I-
it's really,
sorry.
yes,
Can I add
go
one
ahead.
thing? I just
Please.
wanted to say, one of the things about the way that performance excellence is structured, the way that we've done it is it's kind of technology and tool agnostic. So you have the framework of some folks leverage speech analytics, some have homegrown reporting systems, some have agent assist systems, some have training platforms. But at the end of the day, no matter what tools you're using, you still need a framework where the people part of it is following this coaching flow. So what's great about performance excellence is that you're creating that framework to execute on whatever and all tools that you have available to you. And part of the approach piece of this is identifying those tools and identifying, to Vicky's point, what KPIs you're tracking, how you're tracking them, how you can see them, where is coaching occurring, how is it occurring, how often is it occurring. So it's like all the checks and balances around all of those systems. And I think in our experience, sometimes these solutions will say that they solve for all of those pieces, but sometimes they don't give you that framework. They give you that tool, and then there's still that piece of how do we make that tool come to life within our organization. And that's kind of how performance excellence came to life with Northridge and kind of what we work with our clients on.
And I'm just going to put up our fourth poll real quick if people can answer it. And then you can feel free to continue chatting.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vicky and Molly. This was really interesting. And to the whole Northridge group, I think that I don't know, I learned a lot. So I hope everybody else did as well. And if anybody wants to chime in, ask a last minute question, we can. But we can also we'll wrap up the poll in a second. And thank you everyone for coming.
Hey, business operations metrics makes sense. Quality controls and checks. Well, thank you guys for participating in these polls. It's always very interesting to see where folks are at within their organizations. As Jillian and Maggie said, I'm happy to stick around for a few minutes if there are any questions. But certainly otherwise, if you want to reach out to me at a later time, I'm certainly open to that. Passionate and always excited to talk about coaching and performance excellence.
Very, very good topic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And like usual, the recording will be available next week, but we will get it to you as soon as possible. Cool. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you for having us.
Thanks, everyone.
Oh my gosh, that's great. Thanks.
Thank you.